NASCAR teams are fighting back against NASCAR, who's requesting their financials, plus some more lawsuit updates coming out of that. The in-season tournament is here. Let's talk about the bracket since it's been released. And will we have more than 16 drivers win a race this season? Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. We're all currently living in a heat dome. It is swelteringly hot. It is annoying. And I'm honestly maybe ready to go back to winter at this point because listen, 90 plus degrees with 90% humidity, that's for the birds. We don't need that. I don't want it. Whoever wants that, I think you should probably check yourself into an insane asylum because it's not how any person should live out here. Just layer after, no clothes anymore. However, I'm going to wear clothes for this because this is a family show. Let's get into what we want to talk about today. We're going to start off with NASCAR's lawsuit. Well, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports lawsuit against NASCAR, which has now dragged the other 12 teams, well, technically 13, but 12 teams into this with them. So they're not suing. The other teams aren't suing NASCAR as well, but NASCAR is requesting the financial information from the other teams that aren't suing them for their discovery period against 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports. And those teams, they're not happy about it. They were in court on Tuesday fighting back against NASCAR's request because they don't think they should have to turn over their financial information, at least as in detail as what NASCAR wants it, to NASCAR. They're afraid of a couple of different things. One, NASCAR is going to use it against them. Or two, that the information is going to leak out because information did leak out in court last week. That was from the discovery period, and that's not great. It was supposed to remain confidential, and it didn't. So they're weary of that because if that information does leak out to other teams specifically, those teams are going to find out how long contracts are for with sponsors, how much sponsors are paying, how much drivers are making, how long drivers potentially have contracts for as well. So there's a lot that goes into it and other revenue streams on top of it. But NASCAR has requested the last 11 years, essentially, of financial information from these teams, including how much Hendrick Motorsports spent on the Garage 56 program, as well as how much it cost to run Kyle Larson in the last two Indianapolis 500s. And the teams say, hey, we're not handing this over. It could be, quote, catastrophic. And they think that NASCAR has gone too far this time. So the attorney for the teams was in court on Tuesday fighting back against it. I will note Kaulig Racing has formed a deal with NASCAR. They have come to an agreement with NASCAR to hand over their financial information. The whole guise behind this is that NASCAR would never actually see the information, quote unquote. All the financial information would be sent to a third party accountant, and they would strip all the names of it and just send NASCAR strictly numbers with no names attached. But of course, teams are still very weary of that. Judge Kenneth Bell, the judge that is overseeing this case, he will make a ruling sometime either tonight on Tuesday or by Wednesday. He's been very quick with it as well. If you remember the NASCAR countersuit, which the teams wanted thrown out, he ruled that there is enough information for that to stay, to at least be tried. So there's enough evidence behind it to at least try that. Whether he agrees with it or not, that remains up in the air. But the team's not happy about having to hand over or being asked to hand over this financial information. The judge in this case, Kenneth Bell, he has urged the teams, 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, and NASCAR to settle. He wants them to go to mediation. He wants them to settle. He does not want this to go to trial on December 1st. And he has said last week, I can't imagine how much this is costing. Jordan Bianchi mentioned that, last week's hearing cost in the millions of dollars in terms of legal fees. Both sides are willing to spend whatever it takes. It doesn't seem like money is an issue to either side at this, but Judge Bell, once again, kind of, came back over the top and urged them to, hey, maybe we knock this off. He said, quote, I'm amazed at the effort going into burning the house down over everybody's head, but I'm the fire marshal and I will be here in December if need be. So basically he's like, hey, you guys are trying to burn the house down inside with you inside still. If you want to do that, I'll show up in December and we can burn this down. I don't know if that's necessarily the thing that everybody wants to do, though. So the teams met and they said, quote, through their lawyer, Adam Ross, who's representing the teams, said, quote, it'd be absolutely devastating to these race teams if their competitors are able to find sponsorships on the car, driver salaries, all the revenue streams. It cannot make its way into the public realm. And that's what teams are scared about here. They're not necessarily trying to hide anything from NASCAR being like, oh, hey, we're not making any money. Turns out we're making a ton of money here, but they also don't want to hand it over. So we'll see what Judge Bell decides in this case. On Monday, we also had the update with the countersuit here, where they're going to allow the countersuit to continue on. The teams have also requested a rehearing from the Fourth Circuit Appeals in front of the entire panel. When that happens, if they do decide to rehear that appeal, then we'll, go through that process. If they don't decide to rehear it, NASCAR can pull those charters within 7 days, I believe. So it could get pretty interesting here as it continues to go on. But for now, the teams don't want to hand over their financial information. I don't think we can blame them for that. It's, like that extended family member that's like, how much money do you make? And you're like, I'm not going to answer this question because you're going to ask for something out of it. You're going to use it against me. And I think that's what the teams are concerned about with this. So they are going to wait for NASCAR or wait for the judge to decide what to do here. And they still don't want to be a part of this. There's a lot of people on the internet that are like, are they going to join 2311 FRM in this fight? No, they still have no interest in getting into it. They've signed their charters. They want to be left alone. They just want to go race at this point. We'll see how it plays out. But for now, it's up into Judge Bell's hands on how much information these teams are going to have to turn over. The in-season tournament is here. The bracket has been set. It has been unveiled. Jeff Gluck is more excited about this than a Mormon at Swig. Chase Elliott seemingly didn't know it was existing, kind of like he just spent the last 12 months with the Outdoor Boys in a cabin somewhere and didn't have access to any sort of media at all. But hey, it pays $1 million, so he was excited about it. If you're not familiar with what the in-season tournament is, it runs over the 5 races that TNT has. It starts in Atlanta. It ends at Indianapolis. 32 drivers, 5 races, and we'll basically cut it in half every single time. Winner takes $1 million. A fan also wins $1 million. So head over to NASCAR.com and fill out your tournament bracket as well. And hey, who knows? You could walk away with $1 million that comes out of it. Now, the 5 races, starting off with Atlanta, then goes to Chicago, Sonoma, Dover, Indianapolis. So a pretty wide array of tracks here. And I have to urge everybody, think about the tracks that are coming up when you pick your bracket. It's not so much just being like, oh, hey, I think Eric Jones is going to be better than whoever. Is Eric Jones good on road courses? Let's think about this real quick and then make your decision that way. Starting off in Atlanta, things can get pretty crazy pretty quickly. We're going to see some upsets, right? It's a drafting track. There's probably going to be wrecks. There's probably going to be a wreck that involves multiple different cars. And you've got some interesting matchups. You have Kyle Busch versus Brad Keselowski. Might be the most interesting matchup on the board because both of them are wildly desperate to win this season, and they know they can get it done in Atlanta. Now, will they? Will they be driving over their heads? Will they cause a wreck? Will Kyle Busch go 3 for 3 and wreck out of a 3rd race in a row? Remains to be seen, but that might be one of the more intriguing matchups of the night. You also have Daniel Suarez versus Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, really good drafting racer. Daniel Suarez, winner in Atlanta last spring. Also, really competitive this spring as well. That could be a pretty tightly contested matchup on top of it. Then, what about a big upset? Noah Gragson, a 31 seed, up against Chase Briscoe. We know those FRM cars are fast. They're going to be really quick in qualifying. If he can manage to stay up at the front, there's nothing to say that Noah, as the 31 seed in this tournament, can't knock off the 2 seed, that being Chase Briscoe. Then you have Blaney versus Hocevar. Those two had a run-in back in the springtime at Atlanta where Hocevar just shipped Ryan Blaney. If you're going to give me a pick, I'm probably going to pick Blaney because I think he's more consistent, but Hocevar came very, very close to winning that spring race in Atlanta as well. And who knows? The ultimate upset, Ty Dillon as the 32 seed beating out Denny Hamlin, who is the number 1 overall seed. It could happen. It could absolutely happen because Atlanta is an absolute wild card. So whoever's the highest finishing driver of that will advance on to Chicago. Whoever's the highest finishing driver out of their matchups there will move on to Sonoma. From there to Dover. And then for Indianapolis, we'll be down to our final 2 drivers. And whoever finishes best out of that goes on to take $1 million. So I think it's an intriguing thing to talk about during the summer months here, right? It gives TNT something to hype up, something to talk about as well. I think that the next 5 races are a pretty interesting group of 5 races all together. You have a super speedway, essentially. You have a street course, a natural road course. Then you have Dover, whatever you want to call that. It's a high speed 1 mile, high banked, track. And then you also end off at Indianapolis, which is a crown jewel race. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good stretch run right here. Gives everybody something to talk about. And if you're into gambling, DraftKings is a presenting sponsor of this, and you can bet on each of those matchups as well. We'll have to wait and see what the odds are for each one, but you might want to look at some upsets for this weekend because I think that there could definitely be some on the board. With Chase Briscoe's win on Sunday at Pocono, the question has to be asked, are we going to get more than 16 winners in the Cup Series before the regular season ends? So Chase Briscoe becomes the 11th different driver to win a Cup Series race this year through 17 races, which means we still have 9 races to go before the checkered flag falls at Daytona. At this time last year, we had 10 drivers winning a race through the first 17. So we're pacing one ahead right now. We did get 2 wild cards last year. I think we all consider them wild cards, that being Chase Briscoe winning at Darlington and Harrison Burton winning at Daytona, locking themselves in, people that we did not expect. So you had to account for a wild card, potentially locking themselves in. I don't know if we get to 16, but I think that Shane Van Gisbergen, he might be sweating a little bit here, unless, of course, he wins Chicago or Sonoma or even Watkins Glen before the playoffs start. That would move him up that seeding, and he would be perfectly fine from there. But in terms of playoff points, he's actually not last right now. Ross Chastain only has 5. SVG has 6. So something to be said about being good on road courses as it stands. But do we get to 16? That's the biggest question right now. And I think that you're going to get close. So when you think about it, you have 2 wild cards in super speedways, Daytona and Atlanta being this weekend. You have 3 road courses. So that's going to be a bit of a wild card in itself. And then you have to look at it and be like, hey, there's some other tracks out here where drivers can absolutely show up and potentially steal one. And you still have drivers that haven't won a race this year that have traditionally won races. When you look at it, so you already have 11 different winners. You have 5 open spots remaining. Chase Elliott hasn't won a race this year. And I know Chase fans and NASCAR fans alike are like, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. But typically you can count on him to win a race a year. Does he get it done in the regular season? That's the big question. But if he wins, all right, there goes another spot. Alex Bowman won last year in the regular season at Chicago. All right, he does have speed. He just hasn't had that race-winning speed quite yet. Then you have Tyler Reddick, who hasn't gone to victory lane yet, but has, won the regular season championship last year. So now there's 3. So we're up to 14. And then if you have, another wild card win, who knows? You have to at least, consider the thought that maybe Ricky Stenhouse Jr. can win on one of these super speedways. AJ Allmendinger on a road course. Michael McDowell on a road course or on a drafting track. People want to throw Carson Hocevar in there. I'm not sold on him getting it done yet because I still think he's got a little bit to learn. But hey, he could absolutely get it done as well. Ty Gibbs, he's knocked on the door a couple of times, and they seem to be finally finding their footing. And he was super fast in Mexico. Who's to say he's not going to be very fast in Chicago as well? So there's a number of drivers out there that can definitely get it done. Then you have to look at guys like Front Row Motorsports. They can easily win one of those drafting track races. Kyle Busch, he's got Atlanta. He's got Daytona coming up. He's been really competitive there the last few years. You have Austin Dillon. He can get it done at a place like Richmond. So there's definitely some possibilities out there for, there to be 16 or more different winners. And if there are just 16 winners, then everybody gets in. But guys high in the points are going to get knocked out. Remember when Martin Truex Jr. was like 3rd in the points a couple years ago and he got dropped out? That could very much happen again if we have 15 different winners. But there is a chance that we get to 16. Do I think we actually get there? No, I think we end up at 15, more than likely 14. I think we're going to start to see some repeat winners here as we get into the summer months. But of course, there's still a couple wild cards out there. It would be kind of crazy to get to 17 winners in the regular season. That would throw a wrench into things. People are going to be really upset about that. At the same time, 16 drivers in the playoffs might be too many. I think probably 12, 10 might be the better, aspect there instead of watering it down with guys that, let's be honest, probably aren't. Nobody from 12, back to 16 in the seeding is likely going to win the championship. So yeah, I think that it's worth exploring in the future, but in terms of getting to 16, I think you got to ask the question. I think there's a possibility of it. And hey, Legacy Motor Club has been running really well lately. They keep putting themselves in contention. Eventually, they might be in a spot to capitalize on it, and that could just throw that gigantic wrench right into the mess. Just sit back, lob the bomb in, and watch the chaos happen because everybody would be losing their minds at that point. So either way, I'm interested to see what people think. Let me know. Do you think we're going to get to 16 winners, more than 16 winners, under 16 winners? Let me know what you think about the lawsuit, the financial information, as well as the in-season tournament. Are you excited for it? And if so, who are you picking to win the whole thing? On the Closing Laps podcast, I picked Chase Elliott to win it as well. Also, Closing Lap podcast. You can watch the video on my channel. You can also find it on Spotify and on Apple Podcast as well. So like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.